What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Not Just Adulting, where we are untangling the realities of adulthood because adulting is not always in a straight line. So, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy this episode. And for those of you who are just coming back again, welcome back. So, this episode is going to be really good for me personally. We're going to be talking about grief. Okay, all things grief, because grief looks different for everybody, right? Because you could actually grieve more than just death. You can grieve losing a job. You can grieve an expectation that you had in life. You can grieve a life change. Okay, grieve your new weight. So there's different ways you can grieve. So we're going to dig deep into that topic today with Jamayla Gray, one of my homegirls, and I call her Jay. So we're going to dig deep into it with her. But first, I wanted to get into the social media post that I did have, because I need to let y'all know the responses. First of all, shout out to everybody who responded via Instagram. I love it. Please keep those responses coming. But I did have a couple of comments that I wanted to read out. First is going to be from Gianna. She said, grief is an everlasting cycle, no matter how healed you are. Okay. My name rings bells says, I think a lot of people feel like grief is linear, and it's not. Kimberly T wanted us to talk about how faith helps you grieve, which we're going to dig into that with Jay when we get into that interview. Deanna says, allow yourself the grace to cry and feel the loss. The whole doesn't feel, but time heals. And then Ruth Soul said, the crazy expectation to go back to being normal after a week or two of grieving. So we're going to talk a little bit about those things with Jay. And then I also had another post where it says, when it comes to grieving, what do you struggle the most with? And 36% of you said, I struggle with helping others grieve. 27% said, I struggle with acceptance. 18% says, I struggle with knowing how to grieve. And 18% said, I don't struggle, which shout out to y'all, because that's a really, really great place to be. So we're going to dig deep into this topic today. I'm super excited to have Jay, who I'm about to introduce, but I definitely wanted to make sure that I shouted out John Bynum and Michael D. Brown. They're going to be the ones that we dedicate this episode to. So sit back and get ready. Meet Jay. Jamayla is a registered associate professional clinical counselor working with Cerebral under the guidance of John Rash, LCSW. With a master's in mental health clinical counseling and a bachelor's in human services, both from the University of Phoenix, she's deeply skilled in approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, holistic therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, and solution-focused therapy. Jamayla's passion lies in helping people navigate life's challenges, whether it's mental, addiction, or finding peace with anger and anxiety. She's especially devoted to supporting individuals in the LGBTQ plus community and those dealing with depression or other mental health conditions. When she's not making a difference in people's lives, you can find her practicing yoga, traveling, or enjoying time with loved ones. Jamayla lives by the words of Mary Engelbrett. Don't look back. You're not going that way. And I think we can all learn a little something from that. So I'd like to introduce you guys to my girl, Jamayla.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me too. I'm so excited. And especially with the topic and starting off the new year is going to be hopefully fruitful for a lot of people to understand about grieving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This topic is so necessary. I think the crazy thing about this particular one in general is that we were actually supposed to do this interview, a week ago, maybe 2 weeks
Yes.
ago, and we had to postpone because my aunt passed away, my mom's sister.
Yes.
And so I was
Yes.
just like, okay, so it must be a reason why I have to go because the funeral was in North Carolina. So I was like, okay, so I got to go to this
Oh.
funeral. I got to travel to
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina, but I'm going to need some of these experiences for this
Yep.
interview. So thank you for being flexible with me.
No problem. And then I don't know if you remember because me and you used to film together. I don't know if you remember, but right after we were done filming. Remember how the wave went? We did that mash dance for somebody
Yes.
proposing, and we're doing an overnight shoot at Disneyland. And then all of a sudden, I get my call. After the shoot was done, I look at my cell phone. I'm having all these red messages, and then I'm hearing my mother passed away.
Yeah.
So
I
just
remember that.
imagine that emotion. And I was just sit there stuck, and all I could look at you because most of the time we'd be done with the shoot, and it was overnight. We're ready to bounce.
Exactly.
And then I was like, I just sat there, and you're like, Jay, come on, let's get our card, let's get our thing signed, let's go, let's get on the shuttle. And I just looked at you, and I was like, my mother just died. And you and Brandy was just like, oh my God. And you guys just sat there, and I was just like, I didn't know how to act. I just went through this whole scene of proposal to my mom passed away.
And we were cutting up. Like the whole night, we're making jokes, we're laughing. And I think the crazy thing about it is, like, I don't know if any of you are familiar with what it may look like behind the scenes when people are filming anything.
Oh my gosh.
But we can't have our phones, really, you know? And so we were doing like this dance performance, like she said, and it was at Disney. So we were just like lit, you know, everything's magical. And we were up all night. We were up all night. So we had so much energy. We had to do things to keep ourselves awake. And just that look on your face, it was like everything just came to a halt. And I didn't even know, honestly, like even what to do in that situation, because it was just, it was shocking. It was unexpected.
It was because it was like she was really just going to her normal routine of dialysis. And that was the trip part about it. And then the other trip part about it is that, like Felicia mentioned, we can't have our phones, but then we have a break. And it was so happened that you guys went to go check the phones or whatever. And I just for some reason, just sat on Main Street. And I sat on a bench. And I was like, nah, I'm going to go check my phones, y'all. I'm just going to sit here and chill. And if I would have checked my phone, it would have messed up everything, because that's when all the messages hit me. And then I wouldn't have been able to perform. So it's like everything happened for a reason, but then at the same time, it was just sudden. So you just could never prepare, you know, for that. You know, probably the same thing like your auntie.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like, because my aunt, my mom's sister, I call her Aunt Selm. That's my Pookums. That's what I used to call her. And she had dementia, and she had been struggling with that for at least like the last 2 years. And this is a perfect beginning to everything that I want to talk about. It's just like one of the biggest things is, like, you know, when someone's sick, everyone's saying, you know, like, well, you knew that they were sick, you knew that they were going through something, you know. And it's just like, you know, they expect you to be prepared, but like, can you ever be prepared to lose someone, even though you may know there are circumstances that may lead to that? Because we know that eventually we're all going to get to that point, right? But like, is that actually a thing, like, where people can be prepared to lose someone?
no, there's like, you know, even though we know they're suffering, but we still have that emotional attachment. We still know, like, at the end of the day, you know, we had family members who passed away from cancer or something like that, or they're on hospice. And then it's like, you know, we know it's going to happen. We're keeping them comfortable. But then how can you really mentally prepare yourself to let that person go?
Right.
I have a friend, my best friend, Stephanie, and she just lost her sister. And she was just like, you could never mentally prepare yourself for this, even though she knew it was like, she's hospice, she got this much time to live. But once you hear that call, you get that call or you hear it, how can you prepare yourself for that?
Right. Right.
And then there's so many different types of griefs. There's even like a one called complicated grief.
Okay.
Complicated grief is that, and I'm going to use the worst scenario, and I had to deal with this with a couple clients, but it's one of those things that, you know, the suicide murder. One of the partners get mad and they, you know, abusive, you know, obsessive, whatever. So then they decided, you know what, if I can't have this person, nobody can. So they decided to kill their partner and kill themselves. But guess what? The partner survived. So now this partner is pissed, low-key, like, the fuck, you just tried to kill me?
Right.
But then this person is gone too. So that's what complicated grief is, because it's like you angry and you just have so much build up anger in you. And you're just like, I can't believe you tried to take my life,
Right.
our kids, all this stuff. But now you gone.
Mm.
So there's no expiration date. And people don't understand when it comes to grieving, we go through stages. I would say the stages of life. And a lot of people just assume like, oh my God, they died a year ago. Get over it. No, it's not that easy. You know, like sometimes, you know, when it comes to the grieving, I would say the stages of life. But the stages of grief, most of the time, is denial.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the first time you hear it and you're just like, nah, I just talked to them, you know, or you look on their Facebook, on their they just posted.
Right.
What are you talking about? They're not gone.
Right. They just sent me a text message. Like, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's hard. And then anger comes. Then it was like, well, why he has to go?
Yeah.
He was a good person to me. Or he was a wonderful father. Why? I know so many guys who's raggedy and they don't take care of their kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why they got to go? So then that's when the anger comes in play.
So many bad people who don't deserve to. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the bargaining comes in play. Then you're like, okay, for real, I know this didn't really happen. For real, just give me another chance with this person. You know, just one more chance. And I promise, you know, are they really gone? God, I promise I won't cuss anymore. I promise I won't drink anymore.
Yeah,
just bring them back. Maybe this is not real. And then the next is like depression. This is when people can't get out of bed. This is when people are not eating. This is when people just can't deal with it. They get really depressed. And then finally, it's acceptance. This is when, like we talked about, that sometimes people are like, you know what? They were suffering. They're in a better place. But the tricky thing about the stages of grief is that sometimes you go back and forth. Sometimes you accept it, but then there's times you may go out and see a partner, somebody else, and they're happy, and you get mad again.
So
then you go
can
back up
repeat
to
those
anger.
steps. Okay.
Or denial.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the jacked up thing about Facebook is that they always send you those memories.
And sometimes you don't want to remember. Like,
exactly. You're like,
4 years ago
really?
today. There's a reason why we're in the future right now, because I did not want to be reminded. Yeah.
That part.
Oh my
So
gosh.
then,
And pop up with those pictures or,
everything. And you know, so
Yeah.
then you're just like, and a lot of times I have to prepare my clients. Sometimes it's like a subconscious thing sometimes too, because I'll have a client, they're just like, I just don't know why I'm depressed this month. I think it's seasonal. I think something is wrong. I just didn't want to get out of bed. And then I have to sometimes remind them like, isn't this the anniversary when your mom passed away?
Wow.
Or is this during this time? And then they're like, oh yeah. You know, and then that's when
You don't even
they go through it.
realize. You don't even
Sometimes
realize
you
it.
just feel funky for some reason, and then you're just like, I don't get it. What is going on? And then, you know, and a lot of times too, what people don't realize is grieving. Of course, we're talking about death, but grieving is like all over the place. It's so many different factors. It's like, what is really grieving? Just imagine for somebody, a divorce could be somebody grieving. We have children, we did this, we did that. Another type of grieving is like terminal illness, serious illness, diabetes. I can't have sugar no more.
Right. And that's actually a really good point, because I was just like, okay, so my first time realizing that you can grieve more than just death was actually when back in 2018, Zach and I were supposed to get married September 1st, 2018. But it was just so many things going on around that time. His dad had passed away that December in 2017 prior, and then his sister got really sick, and it was just a lot going on with his family. And so it became overwhelming. And so I'll never forget, I was on my bachelorette weekend in Miami, turning it up, living my best life, you know. Listen, it was a lot of, it was a lot, okay? Let me be careful with what I say, because, you know, I am kind of dating the producer.
Right? He's like, you were turning up. What?
Right. He's like, wait, what? I'm sorry, my mic. Are my headphones working? But, you know, I was having a good time. You know, I was celebrating. It was like I want to say, I feel like it was like June or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we were supposed to get married in that September, but because it was so much going on, he called
Mm-hmm.
me while I was
Okay.
at the bachelorette, and I could tell like something was going on, something was wrong.
Okay.
He was like, I just need to talk to you real quick. So I go to the side, we're all lit. So all my girls,
Uh-huh.
we at the pool. And I stepped to the side, and that's when he told me. He was just like, I hate to tell you this like while you're there, but I just need you to know, like, we're gonna need to
Okay.
postpone the wedding. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's just too much, it was too many emotions. His mom wasn't, she was going through a lot
Mm-hmm.
because at
Oh
the
yeah.
end of the day, they were still grieving. It hadn't
Mm-hmm.
been that long since his father had passed away, and that was sudden.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like he was sick. We weren't able to prepare, right?
Yeah.
It was sudden. It was like a heart attack. And so he told me while I was there. So I'm just like, okay, all right.
Right.
At that point, all I could do is know that I had to be supportive in what my future husband was telling me.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And so I get off the phone and I look at my best friend who was also my maid of honor. And she's like, what's wrong? And I'm just like, the wedding is postponed. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to process that. So anyway,
Yeah.
moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
we were supposed to get married September 1st. And so September came around and Zach had
Uh-huh.
to go he had to go back home to do something with his family. I forgot what it was. And his
Mm-hmm.
sister that lives out of the country was in town. So he's like, I'm going to go for that. And so
Uh-huh.
here goes September 1st. And I'm sitting in the apartment and I'm like just crying. I'm
Yeah.
crying. I'm eating ice cream. I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
had some wine, and my mom just kept checking in on me, like, hey, you good? Hey, you all right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
that's when I realized, like that I was feeling something, but I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that it was a form of grief, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so fast forward, like you had mentioned, those different stages of grief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I started to get a little angry because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
does he not want to marry me? Because, here
Yeah.
we are a
Yeah.
little months later after
Mm-hmm.
September. And so I'm starting to feel like those forms of anger and the different feelings. And so I was talking to my friend, Judy, one
Uh-huh.
day, and I was telling her about the different things that I was feeling. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when she had mentioned to me, you do actually need to grieve
Mm-hmm.
your wedding.
Yep. Yep.
And I was just
Yep.
like, what do you mean grieve it? Like she's like,
Mm-hmm.
because that's something that you were excited about. That's something that you were looking forward to and
Mm-hmm.
planning, and it didn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. So you actually have to grieve not having that wedding that you wanted. And
Yeah.
that's when I got introduced to what different stages and forms of grief look like. And that's when I
Yeah.
was like, oh, you could grieve more
Mm-hmm.
than just death.
Yeah.
And so like I was looking, and so some of the other examples of that was just like job loss,
Yep.
right? You
Yep.
can and even
Mm-hmm.
retirement, something that a lot of people look forward
Yeah.
to. There could
Mm-hmm.
be, that you can grieve that new experience, breakups,
Yes. Yes.
that goes for platonic friendships,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
friendships and
Friendships, definitely.
relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so different things like that. So can we talk a little bit more about like the differences, like the different types of grief, instead of just, so I know you had mentioned the complicated. Are there any others?
There's more, just like normal grief,
Okay.
anticipating grief.
Okay.
That's when, like, for instance, the doctor diagnosed you with
Mm-hmm.
first stage cancer. So it's like one of those things like I got to change this whole diet. I have to go through chemo. It's a lot because now it's like you're angry because when you go through chemo and radiation, because like, for instance, my father, thank goodness he's in remission
Mm-hmm.
for years from lung cancer, but just changing your whole diet and then preparing yourself because you're like, I don't know if am I going to really live? Is this chemo or
Yeah.
radiation really going to work? And then just imagine like when my clients or patients go through chemo radiation, they're sick, they're throwing
Mm-hmm.
up. They don't
Yeah.
have that I used to
Losing
work out and
hair.
do this. Yes, losing your hair, all that stuff. And it's just very hard for them. So sometimes a lot of people don't really understand the different types of grief.
Mm-hmm.
There's like traumatic grief, that's like, rape, just so many different types of things. A serious car accident that left people without their arms or legs.
Yeah.
It's so many, like I used to be able to walk. I used to be able to do this. you know, so it's really hard for people to deal with the different types of griefs. And like you mentioned, divorce, losing a job, that is very hard, losing a job, especially when
Yeah.
people went to college and they did put their heart and soul into it, and now it's gone. And retirement, like there's so many people, a lot of times, if you look up the rates, a lot of individuals who end up have going through retirement end up passing away because they feel like, what am I here for? What am I doing
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
That's why hobbies is very important, or volunteering to keep yourself going.
And
So,
busy. So why do
keep
you
yourself
think it
busy.
is that people often minimize or overlook grief when it's not tied to like actually losing a loved one?
Because it's the definition, it's the stigma. You know, some people really don't research the word.
Yeah,
They just
because I'm
assume
probably
it's
one of
just,
those people.
so a lot of people just automatically say, oh, the grieving is death. And like, for instance, if, like you said, oh my God, I was grieving over my wedding. Somebody be like, what you
It's
mean you was
just a
grieving?
wedding. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, what are
yeah,
you talking about? You don't grieve over a wedding. You grieve if somebody died. And it's
yeah.
like, no, that's not it. So I'm just like really to mental health, and I really enjoy being in this field. You really have to research and look up and understand. Like there's so many times people have so many different definitions to different things. You know, so when my clients say something like, I'm grieving, I'm like, well, what does grieving mean to you? And what are you grieving about? And then I get a better understanding. Okay, so what is your symptoms? You know, what's going on? They're like, oh, physical pain, trouble sleeping, lack of eating, lack of interest. I isolate myself from friends and family. You know, just things, simple things is hard to do. Self-care, ADLs, like taking a bath, washing your ass. Some people
Yeah.
don't do that. They just stay their ass in a bed.
Seriously,
But
seriously.
everybody grieve differently. And that's what people have to understand.
Yeah.
And that's the main key, because a lot of people feel like, oh my God, you need to get over it. Oh my God, what would so and so say if you was laying in a bed like this? Okay, let me have my emotions. Let me have my moment.
Right.
Like, don't judge me. You know, like let me do it. And there's
Yeah.
prolonged grief. There's times that somebody may have passed away years ago, and they still grieving over it.
Yeah.
And it just happens.
There's no time frame on grief. And
None.
so a lot of times people will try to rush you through that process and rush you out of it because it's just like, I think you should be over it by now, because they want you to get back to some form of normalcy, not even realizing like, actually, no, I actually have a new normal now. And I'm still trying to impact what my future normal is going to look like. And it's definitely difficult. So let's talk about because I know like when I was younger, I grieved. I started experiencing loss, you know, for like people that were close to me, even when I was younger. So can we talk a little bit about the difference between adults grieving and younger children? So I have here like, how do life responsibilities shape our ability to grieve? You know, like when, and that's talking about in reference to like children as well.
Mainly when it comes to children, the scary part is depend on the age, of course, we have to know. And it depends on the communication style with the parents. A lot of different cultures believe different things. Some I know some people are like, I'm not going to tell the kid Papa passed away.
Okay.
I'm just going to say he's gone somewhere for a minute. You know, but is it healthy? No, because now what you're doing is you're losing the trust.
Okay.
When kids are a certain age, they gain a trust. Now I know we lied about Santa Claus and
That part.
all that
The
crap,
Easter Bunny and all
whatever.
of that. Yeah.
But to say, you know, instead of just sitting down and really talking, and maybe the adult don't know how to process it yet or explain to the child. But when the child end up finding out, you know, someone passed away, they're sad. You know, some of them don't realize like they're really not coming back. You know, until they see them at the funeral in the coffin. A lot of times they struggle. Some kids will have like post-traumatic stress disorder, especially if they were there. They end up developing that very early. You know, just anytime they see a mommy or just a car accident or car, they freak out. There's so many different symptoms that the children would have. And it's like, you know, you just have to just really help the child process everything, talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
let them know it wasn't their fault.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times kids deal with that. Like, it was my fault. I did it. And it was like, no, you didn't. So it's so many factors when it comes to children. It could mess them up really bad. And counseling is very good for children too,
Okay.
because they will really have to express themselves in so many ways. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times what therapists do with kids is play therapy.
Okay.
So they will have them draw.
Okay.
Draw what it was like. And sometimes you'll see the kid draw mommy, daddy, but then they have like an X over dad or something like that, like
Mm-hmm.
dad's dead. Or you'll
Yeah.
see like a gun. The kid will have the dad have a gun,
Uh-huh.
something like that. Or dolls. Play therapy, you have dolls and you have
Mm-hmm.
them doing things like that, playing with the dolls, and then
Mm-hmm.
they will talk out loud, to themselves.
Yeah.
Teens, when it comes to adolescents, sometimes they tend to take it very hard. They tend to very angry, drugs, isolate themselves, loss of interest, grades failing, because this person is away from me. And what am I going to do? And this was my best friend. My mom was my best friend. My mom was the only one who understood me.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's when we had to pay attention to the teens, because this is when negative behaviors come in play, like drugs, as I mentioned before, and just not being active. They give up. What's the purpose of living? My mom left. Why?
Yeah. And
And
it
then what
even
adult?
even when it comes to grieving at these different ages too, it's like if they lost someone, or even if it's like um like sometimes there's certain expectations placed on children, like to meet a goal, like to pass a
Uh-huh.
test, or
Uh-huh.
to be the best, the MVP on their sports team or something. Like there's other things that they actually have to grieve as well, is like they grieve what expectations were placed on them, or even ones that they placed on themselves.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Like you
And
didn't
then
get that
just
boy, you didn't get that girl, speaking of teenage years, because
right.
those years were rough.
No,
Like
they were. And just imagine, like, like I know I had one client, her father was her baseball coach.
hmm
He ended up having
wow.
a massive heart attack. So, and she was a good player.
hmm
Her father, she was the pitcher.
hmm
And because this now, she doesn't want nothing to do with baseball,
yeah.
because she feels like I'm hearing his voice in the field
Yeah.
and I don't want to do it no more. He was the reason why I was getting up to go to the field. Now I don't want to do it.
Right. So how could parents or is counseling or therapy like just the main thing that they need to do? But if there are any other ways to help their children at these different developmental ages, like navigate grief? Like what advice would you give those parents out there?
Like, for instance, definitely practice the self-care. Try to help them, with a routine, daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
Support systems, like
Okay.
family members, like have them reach out. Okay, if the child doesn't talk to me, at least have auntie or somebody.
Yeah.
And then there's like groups, grieving groups. That's really good for adolescents and children to go
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
to hear other people say, yeah, I lost this too. And they're able to relate
Mm-hmm.
more. Like, it's not just me. I'm not just weird. And I tell my adults too, go to groups. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
could go talk. It's nothing embarrassing about you lost somebody. And you're going to hear some people may have the same thing. And then that's when people build relationship and friendships because of that. Like, oh, you lost your husband too? I lost mine. Hey, let's go out. Let's celebrate. Let's do something. I always try to tell, celebrate. Celebrate all the time. If you have to go get their favorite food that they have, sit at the burial site, just sit there and giggle and laugh. Do that. Tell them, talk to them, tell them a story. Also, people don't realize miscarriages.
I was just about to bring that up because that's something that people don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about enough. Any form of child
Miscarriages,
child loss, like miscarriages,
even abortions. A lot of
stillbirth. Yeah.
people don't want to talk about abortions, but that's a grieving too, especially if the girl, got pregnant and then really wanted to keep the baby, but the father's more like, nope. But she didn't want to. she really wanted to keep the baby, but then, people have that mentality like, don't bring a baby into the world if the father's not going to be there, right? So I have a client too now grieving about an abortion. And what I suggest is write a letter to your baby. Put it in a box. Have that there. Write a letter. Your baby ain't mad at you.
Yeah.
Write what happened. Tell them what happened. Express your feelings. Have a little box. Put it under your bed.
So would you still recommend creating a form of like a celebration, even in a situation like that when it comes to abortion? What would that look like?
I mean, for instance, like I said, just get that letter out from under the bed, or like a lot of times, we get the due date, right?
Okay.
So that date, celebrate that date. Just whatever, like watch, whatever you can, just remember to celebrate life, because it's very hard. You're going to be in a dark place all the time if you don't try to celebrate.
Yeah.
So I will tell my clients, hey, get out memories, pictures. I really like the food thing. Back in 2016, I will never forget, I lost my favorite auntie. And she was like my mom. Like, she used to babysit my kids. Matter of fact, this is who I have on me now.
Aww.
I have her ashes in here.
Hey, auntie.
Right? Auntie Denise. So, when I lost her, my whole life shattered. I went through that prolonged, I was drinking like crazy drinking, wasn't eating. I was weighing like 119. I was like sick. I didn't even want to eat. All I did was drink. I went to work because I knew I had to take care of the household.
You're functioning.
For me and my kids. Yeah.
Functioning.
But I was drinking. As soon as I got off work, I just was drinking all the time. And me and my other auntie, I had to decide, like, you know what? This is not healthy. And she would kick my butt eventually. But I went through like at least 6 months. Like, just if I thought about her, I just started crying. I couldn't deal with it. So what I started doing, me and my other auntie, Julie, on her birthdays, we'll go out and I'll drive to Rialto, pick up my auntie, or she used to meet me at P.F. Chain. She always took me to P.F. Chain because that was her favorite restaurant. My auntie Julie, the one, So my cousins were tired of going to P.F. Chain, so she used me. Like, all right, I'll take Jamayla, I'll take Jay to P.F. Chain. So I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. We wore purple, and then that was my auntie's favorite color, so that's why her heart's purple. And we just sat there and just clowned and just talked about her, like just everything. Like she was like telling me, like, when they were kids, she was like, Denise was a snitch. She's always tell on us and stuff, and running around and blackmailing us and stuff. And we just laughed and everything, and it made us feel good. It was one of those things like, okay, let's celebrate Denise's birthday.
Yeah.
And then February 1st is the day she passed away. But my girlfriends, they knew how close I was with my auntie. So a lot of them always check up on me during that time, or they'll say, hey, you want to go out to eat? And I'm like, all right. And then, of course, my friends know about my auntie, too, because once one of the uncles was tipsy. We were having a party at my auntie Julie's house, and he ran straight into the screen door.
Oh, my gosh.
So we were all, me and my best friend sitting there, and my auntie Denise is sitting on the other couch. She was like, Jamayla, you see that? You see him slam into the thing? And I'm like, Jamayla, I know you seen it.
Right. Try not to laugh.
I'm trying not to laugh. Me and my friend look at you like, girl, just say your auntie off the hook. So that's the one thing my best friend always bring up. She was like, girl, you remember that time Denise bust out your uncle, slam into the... Well, it takes a moment, but you will start laughing eventually.
Yeah.
And it is hope. So I just think of crazy moments.
And I think that sometimes, like, because I know one of the questions that I did pose on Instagram is like, just asking, like, what do people struggle with the most when it comes to grieving? And one of the options that a few people, and I will go through the percentages, but I know that a few people did say that they struggle with supporting others in grief. And the reason why I mention that is because sometimes I think that, like, if I know that someone is experiencing some type of a loss or they're grieving in a way, it's like, like when I'm around them, sometimes I do struggle with how to support them because I'm like,
Mhm.
if I bring it up, am I now putting you in a space where you were trying not to be today? Or, so
Got
like,
it.
what tips would you give people who are trying to support someone else in grief? Like, is it good to not bring it up and let them bring it up first? Or, because, I'm always like weird about that part.
It's very tricky because it really depends on the person. Because
Okay.
there's some people, it's just like a person who, I could call you and say, hey, I'm stressed out. I'm dealing with this and this and this and that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you could give me advice and I'll take it. And I'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, girl, thank you. Good looking out.
Yeah.
Then on the other hand, there's people who just want to vent. I don't want you to fix my damn problem. I just
Okay.
want to call you and just vent. I
Yeah.
don't need you to say what you need to do is this and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on the person. But the one thing I will say is don't minimize someone else's loss.
Okay.
Acknowledge their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's their feelings, how they feel. We got to remember we have hearts and we have certain people that we love in our heart. And a little piece was ripped away because this person passed away. So don't minimize anybody's feelings of the loss, but then also give them signs that you're there for them.
Okay.
I'm here, if you need to talk,
Yeah.
if you, whenever, and sometimes people just wanted to, sometimes you could just go there and they just want to have somebody there present for them. I may not even want to talk, but I just want to watch TV and just have somebody sitting here next to me.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, me, sometimes the first thing I know, a lot of times people, again, when they're stressed out or depressed, they don't want to eat. But the first thing I do sometimes is like, hey, do you want me to send you some food? I'll Grubhub you something. I'll send you something to eat. If I'm not able to go there, it depends on my friends. Sometimes I'll be like, all right, I'm getting a bottle of wine, bitch. I'm on my way, whatever type of thing, and I try to check up all the time. Like, hey, checking on you. Do you need anything? Are you okay? And it like you said, it is tricky because sometimes you probably call somebody and they probably like, I don't want to talk about this right now.
Right.
Okay.
I know,
And then
I know
that's
that I'd be
when,
feeling like that myself. Like it's
yeah.
like because I have like so many people who text me because I lost my best friend last year, and he's right behind me actually in the picture. Like, and I have actually two of them back there. My college friend, who was my husband's best friend. We were all really close, and then I have my best friend John back there. And but I know like sometimes people would like call me or text me, and Zach's like, answer the phone, and I'm like, I'm just really not in that space right now. And one of the biggest things that I did find is that it's like a lot of times you're not the only one grieving. Like for example, like with my
Exactly.
best friend, I'm still super close with his family. That includes his parents, his sister, his wife, and then as well as we are a whole friendship circle. So I still have my friends that are grieving too. And I like that you did mention don't minimize someone else's pain, because I minimize my own pain,
Uh-huh.
because I'm like,
Uh-huh.
who am I, as I'm on the phone trying to support his wife during this time. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I can't grieve that hard because that was her husband,
Yeah.
and they have children together. They have two beautiful children together. So I'm like,
Oh,
I can't. I like, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, my feelings got to go on the back burner. And it's like, supporting
oh.
his mom who is really
Uh-huh.
struggling with it. And, I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I can't, that's her son,
Yeah.
and it's just like, so a lot of
Uh-huh.
times I would minimize my own pain, and then I have a whole friendship circle. So although he was my
Uh-huh.
best friend,
Uh-huh.
that's their friend too. And everybody
Uh-huh.
had their own individual relationship because he has his sister as well. And so
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I did feel like, I was minimizing my own grief,
And we
because
do
of
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we do that sometimes. Sometimes we feel like you said, I mean, this is his whole mom.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Right.
Like
Right.
I'm just his best friend. She gave birth to him. She took care of
Exactly.
him. But don't do that though. I mean, you're just reliable of your feelings
Mm-hmm.
and just like the mom, everybody else. But what I do say too, always check on the family.
Okay.
Keep that relationship with them and always check up on them because it sucks. Because you know how like sometimes have you ever all your family get together when somebody passed away?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, cousin, for real, we need to meet up more
Oh my gosh.
often.
Yes.
We always say, for real, it shouldn't only just be
It shouldn't only be
funerals. We
funerals
need to
that
do
bring us
that.
together. Yeah,
And
girl.
then
That's a whole
we
other
be,
topic.
look. And then the cousins we be strong for a month.
Yeah.
And just all of a sudden, life comes back and then we don't.
Yeah.
I try to do a thing now with my family, and I have been slacking lately, but I try to call them on Sundays.
Okay.
Or text them or just shoot a text, hey, checking on you. Because besides me losing my mom and my auntie, we lost both of my uncles too. So now the Hill family is just my auntie Julie.
Yeah.
So that's, frustrating too, because the rest of us don't have, siblings. And then I lost my biological father
Yeah.
a year after my mother.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Now I'm hearing people telling me like, oh, you're an orphan. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you.
You're right.
What?
We're not going to do
that.
Just call me that.
I still have my other father. I was blessed to have two dads. So I'm like, well,
and
fuck
they're still here. Like, especially when you believe.
Yeah, they're still here because I just like all the time, he died literally a year after my mom. Like, everybody's like, ooh, he up there with your mom. And I'm like, okay, we ain't gonna talk about it. That's weird. But yeah, so it's just that when people like just in general, like check on the person, check on the family.
Even if you're not mentioning,
the
elephant in the room, just checking in. Okay.
Hey, just checking in. How are you? Especially during the anniversary time
or
around their birthday. That's why I used to always celebrate.
Holidays.
Holidays is very hard.
I'm learning that holidays are just really hard. Like back in the day, we used to be so excited when Christmas was coming around. And now it's just like, you're just super sad all the time.
It is. And do you know how many times now is that, I'm that old.
Right.
But just like, it's not the same. The holidays, it's not the same. Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's like I'm the auntie now.
Yeah.
It's not the same. And then my kids are grown.
We're the adult now.
We're the adults now.
Oh,
it's like we're the ones got to do the family reunion and all that because grandma's not here.
Yeah.
We're the one who has to try to get everybody to stay together. And
I
even went through, and I don't know if you remember when my daughter moved to Vegas and then my son went to college. And you remember, I was staying in that house by myself. I went through emptiness syndrome then.
I think that's like around the time when we first met.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
I believe.
So just imagine my kids was my everything. I was a single mom, but not a single mom. Like their dad is a ride or die. But, anytime I need anything, he's there. But just imagine my kids gone. Yeah. And I'm by myself. And I was just sitting here like, what the?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have to cook. I don't have to get the crock pot out. I don't need to make no smothered chicken. What's going on?
Yeah.
I went through grieving with that. Everybody's like, girl, you should be happy you by yourself in the house. No, I miss my kids.
Right.
So yeah,
those are the moments that people don't even really think about. And that is something that you have to learn how to navigate through. So that kind of leads me to my next question. How do you, and this is, grieving a major life change. Let's go with that. A major life change. So a breakup, job loss, big move, empty nest syndrome, anything like that. How do we create an emotional resilience while managing a busy life or even try to get back to a busy life?
What I suggest to my clients is let's find a hobby.
Okay.
Hobbies is very important. Get yourself out there. What do you really want to do? Even when they lose a job, they like, I really didn't like the job, but it was taken care of. Okay, but what do you really want to do then?
Okay.
Let's try to launch off with a new business. What is your thing? I like to draw. Okay. Let's start off like with some drawing. Let's do this. It's that sometimes I'll have clients, I give a lot of homework a lot of times. Journal writing. And a lot of times I always tell my client, journal writing, people assume like the therapist is being lazy. Like, just writing a journal. No, it's a thought records. So you could see how you're improving or you're maturing to certain things that happen. If somebody has an anger issue, so something like that. So what I tell my clients a lot of times is find a hobby. Take care of your self-care. Are you working out? Be okay to go out by yourself. Like, there's nothing wrong going to the restaurant by yourself and sit there. There's nothing wrong going to the movies by yourself. You got to love yourself, number one, first, before you could try to love anybody else. Go shopping by yourself. Get to know yourself first. Find a hobby, self-care, and then go from there.
And get to know yourself, this new self, right?
Without
Like,
this person
yeah.
or without that job, so it's very important to just restart yourself, rebuild yourself,
Okay.
put more growth into you. Just get yourself out there and work hard on the new you, like you said.
Yeah. So, I know I said that that was my last question, but I do
No, that's
have
okay.
one
That's
more.
okay.
So, I do have another one because I
Okay.
feel like, okay, spiritually,
Uh-huh.
right? You have
Uh-huh.
people who have different religions, different
Uh-huh.
cultures, and different
Uh-huh.
beliefs. When it comes to things, like what are some of the things that you witness, as a therapist when you are dealing with, I'm gonna say Christians, because
Okay.
that's what relates more to me, and I feel like I definitely want to hear the answer to this. Is like, because grieving, you go through so many different feelings and the different
Uh-huh.
stages,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And where
Yeah.
it's kind of like, why God? Like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
why my job? Why is this happening to me?
Uh-huh.
Why my best friend? Why my
Uh-huh.
aunt?
Uh-huh.
Like, why is it so, like what do you like, what are your experiences with dealing people who have that spiritual fight,
Got
and
it.
what advice would you give to that person?
So of course of course as a therapist, we can't be biased and
Okay.
so a lot of times I ask them, are you spiritual? Are you religious? I have
Okay.
some clients who believe in cards. So I'm just like, okay, and I just let them talk about it.
Okay.
For the clients who are Christian, Baptist, etc., um, we tend to go through Bible verses
Okay.
and talk about it. And I will say something like, God doesn't hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have that in your heart. We don't know why, we don't know the purpose.
Yeah.
Everything God has his reasons and we can't question it. Just continue praying and he's not mad at you.
Okay.
And that's one of the things I always have to say because they're like, is he punishing me? Oh, this is karma. Or I did this and this is why he took this person away from me. And it's like, no, just pray. Don't have that in your heart. That is not you.
Yeah.
Even I mentioned, call your pastor, go to a grieving counselor,
Mm-hmm.
call one of the sisters at the church or the brothers at the church.
Mm-hmm.
Call somebody there that you could talk to. Don't be angry like this and let them pray for you.
Yeah.
And then I have some clients, I always listen to Grace of Purpose in the morning. That's
Okay.
personally what I listen to. And it's like 20-minute prayer just to get me going in the morning, when I'm walking Mamba or whatever. And I have my clients like, here, I'll send it to them. Hey,
Yeah.
listen to this. A lot of times the Catholic population, I know they, have candles, they'll pray. I had one, I cannot remember what this was called, but it was during Christmas time. And my homegirls, I have a lot of Latina homegirls, right? And so she has this board and they have candles and have pictures, like pictures of people who passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And she will have their favorite items. And anybody, if you guys are listening to this and you know what this is, please put it in the
Oh, it
caption so
was
I can
like in
remember.
Coco, like the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
It's a holiday, but I don't want to jack it up. But it's
Yeah. I can't
yeah,
remember what it's
I remember
called.
it's
So,
like a
yeah.
dia, because it's like the Day of the Dead, basically,
Yes.
but in
Yes.
Spanish, yeah.
Yes.
I know
So
exactly what you're talking about.
so she did that and she was so sweet because she called me and said, oh, can I have a picture of your mom and your dad? And I want to put it on my thing too. And I was like, okay. I was like, girl, my dad used to like some Hennessy though. So then so
Come
she,
on, turn it up.
so she got a mini Hennessy
Mm-hmm.
for my dad, I'm like, girl, he used to smoke some blunts, like put that there, whatever. My mama, she was
Listen,
a
whatever.
mudslide person. My mom loved her some mudslide and
Mm-hmm.
Cosmo. So she put all of those things on it and it was so like cute to see
Mm-hmm.
that, and I was like, I never seen that before. So it's cool to celebrate, things like that and remember them and having their favorite things on there. So
And so the Day of the Dead in Spanish is Dia de Muertos. And that's the Day of
okay.
the Dead. And
Okay,
it's
good.
celebrated in Mexico. mostly, which is why I brought up Coco, because that's one of like my favorite Disney movies.
Okay.
But I love that. I love that your friends do that for you though, because it gives you
Yes.
like that chance to like create that balance of like, okay, hey, here's permission, like not only to feel how you need to feel, grieve, cry,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but also like
Yep.
you had mentioned earlier, is that celebration. And I
Yes.
think that's
Yeah.
so important. Just
Mm-hmm.
try to find that resilience and just that balance. And because
Yes.
I know
Yes.
that you know, my best friend John,
Mm-hmm.
aka Man, we
Uh-huh.
his mom was telling me before, like, to make sure that I wasn't like losing myself so much in grief that I wasn't, you know, paying enough attention to my husband and other relationships, my
Yes.
child, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
just like, and not focusing too much on like my life without Man, but like
Mm-hmm.
just being able to find that balance where it's like he's still honored. I can
Mm-hmm.
still have him as a part of like my daily life and
Mm-hmm.
everything, but moving forward, moving
Exactly.
forward.
And just like even like you have the picture behind you. Like there's
Yeah,
nothing like, and people do get lost sometimes when somebody pass away like that.
yeah,
They're just like, I don't want to do nothing and the baby's looking at you like I mean, that's why I got Mamba.
yeah.
Because I
Got you.
was grieving so much. So when I was like,
Mamba's
I
her
was not a
dog,
dog. I
y'all.
was not
Mamba's
a
her
dog
dog.
person. Y'all don't understand. If y'all would have known me back in the days, I couldn't stand going to people's house and they had dogs. I was looking like,
Really?
ew. And I'm like, it's all in the kitchen.
Right.
And stop. I said it, right?
Right.
But now, oh my God, y'all, if y'all see me with Mamba, I be having them on my social media. I be having them all in the car with me. This child sleep with me.
Right.
I be cooking his meals. I be doing all
And I
kinds of
believe it because I
stuff.
remember how you were with your daughter's dog.
Yeah, so yeah, he's just so spoiled. We just went to Five and Below and he went shopping. So
You and your
yeah,
dog.
yeah.
See, I
So
love
birthday
that.
parties, everything, y'all. Y'all just don't have no idea.
I love that. Well, listen, girl, I could literally sit here and talk to you all day. I
Right?
literally can, which is why we need to get together soon. But I
Exactly.
have to thank you so much for being on this episode. Like,
Thank
we
you.
needed this. I'm sure I
Yeah.
really like, my prayer is that someone like listens to this and are just
Mm-hmm.
like truly blessed by it, because
Good.
it's a serious topic. It is, and I love like that you had mentioned earlier, like just starting the year out with an
Mm-hmm.
episode like this can definitely help
Yep.
to shape someone's year, and just to know that they're
Mm-hmm.
not alone like in this thing.
Yes.
Like we all have our forms of grief, and we
Mm-hmm.
have our moments, but I love everything that you have mentioned. So if there's
Thank
anybody who wants
you.
to reach out to you, like maybe to follow you or to even maybe become like a client of yours because they love your vibes, how
Uh-huh.
could they keep in contact with you or get into contact with you?
Well, they can get in contact with me. So I have a website, and it is www.stripesthatheal, like the Bible.org. So you could go on there. And
Mm-hmm.
my Instagram is J Gray, Jaigray 35.
Come on,
Yeah, still holding
35.
on to that age.
Listen, ain't nothing wrong with it. All right, man, I'm about to hit 35 in April.
Oh, look at you.
Milestone. Let's do it. Let's.
Look, and you just do it. And then also my business Instagram is jgray underscore
Mhm.
STH. And that's my business one. That's my business Stripes That Heal. And, I also do therapy. I have sober living homes. I have two.
Mhm.
And also teach anger management and domestic violence online.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna
Thank
definitely have you on
you.
here again because I'm pretty sure we
Oh,
have some more
yes. I love
conversations
it.
that we need to
Oh,
unpack.
yeah. You know we will.
That part. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Definitely. And make sure you guys check out our social media because we are definitely going to be doing a little activity of some
Mm-hmm.
different scenarios in which you may experience a grief. And we're just going to have like some fun with it and
Yeah.
basically just talk about exactly how a situation should be handled. So make sure
Mm-hmm.
that y'all look for some behind the scenes footage. And thanks again, Jay.
Thank you so much, Felicia.
I have to thank Jay again for coming on and being a part of this episode. Like, the conversation was so good. Like, there's nothing even more to say on the topic, honestly, because that really unpacked grief so much. And I needed that. So thank you again, Jay. I look forward to having you back on the show again, just to talk about a couple of other things. And make sure y'all are following us on social media, so that way you can see the scenarios that we acted out. Okay, we couldn't even fit that into the episode to do it on here. So make sure you follow the pages on Instagram, Facebook, and we'll definitely have those in there. But I gotta lighten the mood a little bit before y'all leave and ask y'all what y'all watching on TV. What are y'all watching? Y'all know I'm always trying to dig deep into y'all business. Something that I'm currently watching right now, and I'm binging. And I will say, disclaimer, I'm late to the game, but I'm watching Equalizer 2. I love it. And this is the one with, not Equalizer 2, Equalizer, but with, it's the show with Queen Latifah. Shout out to my girl, Queen Latifah. She from Jersey like me. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little apprehensive about watching the show at first, but I'm glad I started it because it's so good. Like, each episode is given a new topic and something for her to have to solve and fix, and it's definitely giving superhero energy. I'm just waiting for like an episode where things don't go her way, but that I'm only on season 1, so maybe it happens. Maybe that's how they end the first season or something. Like, I'll stay tuned and I'll post it. But that's what I'm watching right now. I'm enjoying it, and it's a good binge-worthy show. It's kind of giving me Bones a little bit, but not with all of that. But anyway, let me know what y'all are watching right now. And I look forward to coming back with the next episode. So make sure y'all are following us on the streaming services, YouTube, social media, so that way you can see what we're talking about next. I look forward to y'all coming back and listen to the next one, because I'm gonna give you a little sneak peek. We are gonna be talking about the 90s. It's gonna be fun, and I think we need it after this deep episode. But thank you so much again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.